And we've all seen elections in all countries where one side wins big, but it's very rare to see any party running on give us a massive win, as opposed to just give us a win, put us in government is a normal sort of line. I can see that being the kind of thing that would backfire. Um, I wanted to ask a bit about the coalition parties, and and how stable you think that's likely to be. What are their demands going to be? There was a bit of reporting. You tell me if I'm wrong about this, but a bit of reporting when the counting was still going on, and it wasn't quite clear what the final result would be. That there was a possibility that the opposition might even be able to form a government with these parties, but they fairly quickly put paid to that. But what are their priorities? What do they want to get out of this, and how will that, if at all, derail the bigger national agenda that the BJP want to run with?
Yeah, no, this is of course a pretty standard template for India. Again, the Modi years are quite abnormal for this. Since 1989 or so, India has been powered by coalitional governments, sometimes very scattered and sometimes much more cohesive between 2004 and 2014. The Congress was at the core, but much smaller than the BJP is even today, but still held together a coalition government that was re-elected in 2009 and so on. So there's a template of an approach for this. The parties in particular, there are two large parties, and by large, we're not talking in the hundreds or even the 30s and 40s. There, we're talking 16 and 20 or so. That those numbers together they have 28 seats between the two of them, the TDP and the JDU, which was not sufficient to take the opposition alliance over the 272 mark. And so, although the opposition did reach out to them and promise them things and so on, it was always going to be a bit too far for that to be genuinely in play. Um, but as I said before, we've not seen Modi and his Home Minister Amit Shah operate in this situation. Their demands are not necessarily going to be at the national level, but you can imagine their basis, their approach is a bit more welfarist, a bit more social justice, and their support comes from a more diverse set of people, let's say, than the BJP does. And so rather than seeing huge and different demands, you'll see the BJP unable to act unilaterally on things like the Citizenship Act that we've talked about, which was widely seen as targeting Muslims, but also on certain approaches to welfare, on privatization, on focusing on certain business friendly approaches, and so on. You're going to see a bit more difficulty in passing legislation that could be seen as affecting social justice in various ways. Maybe a simple answer is that governance is just going to have to be much more consultative, which I think is broadly a good thing. But people have often come to see Modi as a strong man who can just get things done, which some parts of the world and the markets in particular love. And presumably we're going to have slightly more consensus building if they can even pull that off. We've never seen them having to do this, really. And so yeah, it's the big challenge. The big question coming out of this for me is, how does the BJP operate? There are two levels at which they might be under challenge. One is, first time they have to operate in a genuinely coalition set up under Modi. They've done this before under a previous prime minister, but not under Modi. The second is, what are the internal challenges to Modi and Amit Shah, given that they've been pushed back on this front? Now, Modi is still the tallest leader. Amit Shah is probably still the internal, numbers man. But they've clearly been dealt a message by the Indian voter, and the space for contestation within the party opens up as well.